Hospice is such a scary word. Mom's going into hospice. She won't be returning home. Every time I hear the word hospice, my heart breaks a little. Hospice will come in now and hold her hand until she passes. These are just a few comments that people think when they hear the word hospice. Up until a few months ago, I thought the same things. Good afternoon, my name is Barb Huffman, and I'd like to share with you a little something I learned about hospice. We became a part of the hospice family back in October when my mom, Letty Caldwell, was placed in hospice care while living at Miller's Mary Manor. Mom was in the final stage of dementia. At that time, I was familiar with some, but not many of the services hospice offers to the loved one and their family. As the services were explained to me, I immediately knew I wanted to tap into as many of them as possible, so more eyes, ears, and voices would be a part of Mom's remaining days. One very valuable set of eyes, ears, and voice came through the hospice volunteer program. I was introduced to Mom's volunteer friend over the telephone when I shared with her Mom's joys and interests. Who would have thought in just those few short minutes of conversation, this amazing lady would hit the ground running and become a very important member of our family, even though it would be several months before I actually met her face to face. She began visiting Mom shortly after our phone conversation and zoomed in all the areas of Mom's life that brought her joy. The volunteer faithfully visited Mom, even though by now Mom's verbal participation in conversation was almost none. But she chatted with her anyway about anything and everything under the sun. I would imagine if we asked my mom, she would say her favorite part of the conversation would have been sharing stories about her grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and praying and reading the scriptures. Even though the chatting was mainly one-sided, Mom would occasionally make facial expressions and use her eyes to communicate. And let me just share, my mom was pretty feisty. It would have been easy for the volunteer to have said, "I am not going back. I cannot see that I am making a difference, or that Letty is happy to see me." But she always returned. She took quilting books and shared pictures and stories of quilts with Mom and chatted about the joy of quilting. Each time she visited, she read scripture and prayed with Mom. I know, even though Mom was unable to communicate verbally with the volunteer, her heart was singing with joy. This touched my heart as well, knowing that someone who had never heard of my mom or family willingly took the time to care for her as though she were a part of her own family. I didn't meet the volunteer until the last few days of Mom's life on earth. In fact, it was on Wednesday, when we knew that time was near, and I was in Mom's room, that a lady walked in and introduced herself as Judy Root, hospice volunteer. I expected her to want to back out of the room and leave, but instead she comforted me, went to Mom's bed and prayed with her one more time, and then actually prayed with all of us around the bed. She was a gentle and quiet presence when we needed it most. I had already been bragging to anyone and everyone about hospice and how I was becoming their #1 fan. But this unselfish act of kindness and compassion touched my heart in a way I cannot explain. Judy also came again to Mom's worship celebration of life, and once again I was touched by her caring attitude and love she had for a person she had not known in her prime, but knew her when she needed her most. Mom had a favorite scripture passage, and I'd like to share it with you in closing. Psalms 27:13-14. I am still confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong, take heart, and wait for the Lord. For me, the scripture describes you, the hospice volunteer. We, the family of the loved one, see the goodness of the Lord in the hospice volunteer. They wait with us. They help provide the loved one and their family strength and peace of mind as together we patiently wait for the Lord to take our loved one home. Thank you, volunteers, and a special thank you to Judy Root.